Welcome to JobGhost, the podcast where we talk all things ghosting and the hiring process. I'm your host, Meg Giuliano, and today we've got a very special guest joining us to share their story. Ellie Pikula is the CEO of Vigilant, the AI-powered personal safety app delivering real-time global alerts and on-device guidance to keep people safe wherever they go. A former FBI special agent, Ellie now leads Vigilant's mission to make actionable safety intelligence accessible to everyone. Ellie, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me. I apologize if you hear my cat meowing in the background. She meows at like the worst times.
Want to get something to She has something to say about ghosting too.
As she also, she can come on the next podcast guest.
Yeah, guest number 2.
I was like a surprise appearance today.
Love it. Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about Vigilant and anything else that you've been up to lately.
Yeah. So Vigilance is a mobile safety app that we're building. Our team stems from, government military backgrounds. Whenever we created this idea of what Vigilant could be, we just kind of looked at what existed on the market and really felt as though the consumer apps that were out there didn't really provide the safety tools needed and the information needed to like truly keep people safe. And so our goal in building Vigilant was to create a holistic safety solution that individual users could have access to and have the confidence to know that, the people that have been taught how to keep people safe across multiple different venues are the minds behind the app and have confidence that those features in there can be used in multiple different ways depending on what safety means to you so that you have everything that you need in your day-to-day life.
I need that. You and I should talk about that after.
Yeah.
And who's your typical user? Can anybody use this?
Yeah. So we just launched in the App Store and Android Store. So it's open for anyone to use right now. It's really targeted towards, I would say, people that want to know the things going on around them. I know that that's like not everyone. Not everyone wants to have awareness of like things that are happening around them. But we also have like a global newsfeed as well. So we've had a lot of individuals that are traveling or have children studying abroad, things of that nature that have like really just like loved the app and have been using it in their day to day. But yeah, so users that are traveling and then also just families that are really prioritizing safety right now. I know that the world's kind of becoming a little more chaotic and people want to know what's happening now more than ever so that they can ensure that, they're avoiding areas and situations that are potential safety concerns.
Yep. Yeah, and with all the AI out there too, it's hard to tell sometimes when you see something, is that fake? Is that real? Is that actually happening in the US or only being able to navigate through some of that would be helpful.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I agree.
Let's get into it then. When did your first experience with ghosting happen? And were you ghosted or, and no judgment with this, were you the ghoster during the interview process?
I have definitely been ghosted before in the job hunting process. I think that I have like kind of an interesting job. Like when I was hunting for jobs, I would say it was under like different circumstances in the sense of like my husband is a federal agent as well. And so he relocates kind of frequently to different areas. And so it's just like an added layer of complexity to my job hunting experience because I'm really kind of like blocked into more of like the remote type jobs, unfortunately. And so with that comes like a much smaller like job pool that I can apply to first and foremost. And also it's just much more competitive, in the, I would say like remote job space. And so, yeah, I applied for one job and I loved the job. I wanted it so badly. And they put me through 6 rounds of interviews. Like every week was a new interview with a new person until I made it all the way up to being interviewed by like the senior vice president of the company. And then they were like, great, we'll have an answer for you on like next steps. And normally if you go through like that many interviews and like reach that level, it's kind of like you expect that you're probably going to be getting the job. And then it was just radio silence. And I was so upset. I was like, one, stressed about trying to find a new job. And then whenever I like didn't hear back, I reached out, didn't get an answer. I reached out a second time, and then I got like an automated email back that was like, just like the standard, like your application has not been selected and we encourage you like to apply in the future. And I was like, that's crazy, because I did 6 different interviews with individuals all the way up to your senior VP, and you sent me an automated email, and it actually did like make me pretty sad in the process. And I was like, I will never do that to someone. That is horrific.
Yeah. What do you think they could have done differently to make you have felt better walking away from that?
I think just like communication is key. And I also like understand like businesses might put you through like multiple rounds of interviews, and it might be like much more of a rigorous process. But I think when you go, like once you reach a certain point, like maintaining that human element to the hiring process is going to be like really important. But yeah, I think that like maintaining a human element once you reach a certain part in your job, like in the job interview process, goes a long way for applicants. I think that businesses like oftentimes forget like the human element behind job hiring and just like the need for communication. Like people that are going through the job hunting process are at like their most vulnerable points sometimes in their lives, like coming off of, like losing a job, being laid off, like all these different things that are happening, like, and then working against the clock to needing to get funding like in their lives again. And I think businesses sometimes lose sight of that, and just that like small little human element can go a really long way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. How do you think it affects their brand and reputation when they ghost?
I think it can astronomically affect their brand and reputation. But I don't think businesses always necessarily like see it that way. Because like I said, when you're going through the job application process, like you're very vulnerable at that point. And I think businesses are obviously looking at the job hiring process as just like a numbers thing that's needed for the company. But like you never know who that person, like you don't really know who that person is. You don't know the connections that they have. You don't know what they're going to do one day. And you might really need that person from like a business perspective for partnerships or things of that nature. And if you like totally burn that bridge in the job hiring process, that could have huge impact on like your business and like the connections that you're able to build and the reputation that like starts forming time over time if you do that to multiple people.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you this. Would you tell one of your friends that they should go apply at that company?
No,
Yeah.
not at all. I think that it's one thing like if I apply for a business or like for a position, for example, and like I don't get interviewed and I just like don't ever hear back from them, like, yeah, that's not great. But like the longer you go through, I think the job hiring process, the more negative implications it can have on you to then ghost or to like not add like that personalized, like, hey, we really appreciate you applying for this, but we decided to go in a different direction. Like you don't owe people like a full, like response for why they were not chosen. But I think the longer you put someone through the job hunting process, obviously the more likely it is that they're pulling out or like stopping applying to other positions and things of that nature and starting to put their eggs into like a basket. And I think that that's then also going to affect, like, I have a lot, like, it was for a job in the security space and working in intelligence. And I have a lot of friends, for example, that like would be great fits for that organization, but I would never tell them to apply there in a million years just because of that one experience that I had.
Super telling. And I agree. It's kind of like dating, right? Like if you go on a first date with somebody, and you're not interested, the response might be shorter and maybe even just like a text or something. Whereas like if you've been in a longer term relationship with somebody and you've both invested some time with each other, hopefully you're not just sending a text message to break up, right? Hopefully it's a phone call or in-person meeting, something, a little bit more personal.
100%.
And then I don't know if that company that you applied for, and you don't have to tell us, had a brand or something, but if they did, I imagine you probably wouldn't be their biggest fan as a customer either.
Not just that. Like I would say, like if it, for example, like I love Aritzia like the clothing brand. And if I applied for a job at Aritzia and they did that, like I'm still gonna shop at Aritzia at the end of the day. But I do think it could just have, like I said, it more so comes down to like I wouldn't ever recommend them to a friend that was looking for a job, or you know, if they ever did like approach me again or like have a conversation, like for a new opening, because like sometimes that has happened to me where like I haven't been selected for one job, but then they like recontact me, a month or so later. See, I knew she would make a surprise appearance and say, hey, like we really enjoyed interviewing you before, and we think you could be a great position for this new opening if you would like be interested in applying. But I would, if they reached out to me, not entertain the email, truthfully.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's such a missed opportunity because, to your point, maybe there's a position that you're a better fit for opens up down the road, but now you're probably not going to be interested in pursuing.
Yeah, and I think it's just more so like it, not because like it's me trying to like be petty or like hold a grudge on the company, but it's more so like I then have concerns like for how seriously they take their own hiring process, truthfully. And so to then like reapply or like reconsider them for like a new job or things of that nature would then just give me a little bit of like concern of what that process would actually look like. Is it worth transitioning from like one job to another? Like if I know that like they put me through a 3-month process and then ghosted me at the end of it, I just have more so concerns around that side of the process versus like me having like any type of issue necessarily with the business.
Yeah, I can understand that. I always say the interview is like the mini sneak peek of what you might be getting if you were to go work for that person.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly.
And then I did just want to touch briefly on the hiring manager side of things because especially now that you're a founder, I know that you guys are actively hiring. How do you manage applicants and interviewees?
Yeah. It's definitely different in the startup space because like you're not a huge company. You don't have like just a bunch of tools at your disposal, I would say, to like organize your hiring process, like, automate as much as you can. And so for me, like a lot of it is done just by reaching out, talking to them, scheduling the interviews myself, getting on the interviews and doing the calls, hand reviewing all of like the resumes. So it's definitely a much more tedious process in the startup space when going through the hiring process, unfortunately. But sometimes I do like that a little bit better. For right now, I think you get like the opportunity to connect very early on with like applicants and see who is like the best fit for your organization at that point. That I think maybe if I was a larger company and like doing a lot more of like the automation process, it might be a little bit more difficult to feel like I'm building that same type of connection. So yeah.
To wrap this up, and thank you for coming on, by the way. This has been really, really good. Appreciate it.
Sorry for my cat just screaming in the background.
He has stuff to say about ghosting too. I love it.
Is very passionate about ghosting, as you can see.
Does she want to work for JobGhost?
But no, literally, she could be like the team mascot. She's now like here under me. We'll just give her a little cameo moment. Say hi.
Yes, do that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So to wrap this up, I did want to ask you, is there anything that you think we can all do to help eliminate ghosting during the interview process?
I feel like there's so much that you can do to help eliminate ghosting. I think that like what you guys are building at JobGhost is crucial and kind of being that like first line of defense to ensure that ghosting isn't happening. Like I said, I think when people are going through the job interview process, you are catching people at some of their like most vulnerable moments. And I don't think that a lot of businesses necessarily intend to like take advantage of people in those moments, but they're also not coming to the interview process in the same space that the interviewee is. And so I think creating lines of defense for a business to be able to put into place to one, make the interviewee feel, like heard and prioritized, but also allow the business to run efficiently is crucial. And so I think implementing, technology like JobGhost has and ensuring that the people that are, you're hiring directors and like working through the HR and like hiring process bring that like human connection and touch to it so that it leaves, a positive impression on interviewees are like two of probably the most important things that businesses can start implementing to start mitigating the ghosting process and just making sure that they have a very like solidified hiring workflow in place.
I love that so much. Yeah, such a great takeaway. Before we sign off, where can people connect with you and follow Vigilant and you and see what you're up to?
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on LinkedIn. Definitely on there. Vigilance also on LinkedIn. We're on social media as well. If you're interested in downloading the app, checking it out, it's in the Apple Store. Type in Go Vigilant, and it will populate there for you. And yeah, I try to respond to everyone too. So like if you ever shoot me a message, want to chat, want to connect, I'm always happy to just like make new connections, talk to new people, learn about what you're interested in, things like that.
So yeah, I'll definitely be downloading the app after this.
Yeah, thank you
for jumping on. And thanks for tuning into JobGhost, the podcast. Don't forget to get on our wait list at www.jobghost.ai. And remember, say no to ghosting.
No to ghosting.